Pros and cons of staying at Great Wolf Lodge. Hi, welcome to my channel, Disney Hobby Guides. Like, subscribe, turn on bell notifications. It really helps me grow my channel. Okay, today we're going to be doing a pros and cons about Great Wolf Lodge. It was interesting because I made this post about this being cheaper than Disney, and it was a huge amount of community outrage overall saying that this was equally as expensive as Disney, if not more expensive than Disney. And I'm a little bit confused because I did do a video about a Christmas stay right before this video. And just as a recap, it came out to around like $1,400 for a 3-night stay, which includes park admission, hotel for those 3 nights, and breakfast for all 3 nights. They don't charge for parking, so that's not really a factor. But that's kind of that, right? It comes out to $20-30 for a 3-day park hopper during the same time frame. And that's with all the bells and whistles, park hopper, Genie Plus, 3 days worth of parking. And the only thing you're getting out of that $2,030 is park tickets and parking. There's nothing else in there that they're offering besides that. So you still have to take care of a hotel, and you don't even get a breakfast out of that, right? So you have to kind of take into account that when you're making these comparisons, you have to kind of compare apple to apple, right? I mean, if you're comparing hotel to hotel, then sure, right? If you're comparing hotel and park tickets to hotel and park tickets, sure. But if you're doing other things, there's a lot of things that can bump up your costs at Great Wolf Lodge real quick, and it will end up being more expensive than Disney in some respects, depending on how you spend and depending on what you do. But there's ways to mitigate that. So let's start with one of the cons. One of the cons is their quick service needs help, and it needs a lot of help. Their quick service literally takes 20 to 40 minutes for something as simple as a nacho or a burger or fries. I mean, we're talking about like an outrageous amount of waiting time for that. And for me, that was Buckets. So Buckets is kind of like their quick service restaurant, chicken strips, burgers, things like that. I'm talking about this taking like 20 to 40 minutes for anything, especially during the nighttime rush, which you would think that they would actually staff more people during that time. But once they start closing off, like say the water park and stuff like that, they kind of diminish their crew and things just take longer. And it's not the crew's fault. It's just the lodge needs to stock more people in these areas so that they can keep things rolling. So, in that respect, it's not good. I mean, I had this one instance where my kids partied all day in the water park. They're exhausted. They just want to eat and go to sleep at that point. And having to wait 20 to 40 minutes for that is really annoying as a parent, because you just want them to eat and go to sleep because they need to go to sleep, right? So be prepared for very, very long wait times during dinner time. Okay, that's kind of one of the bad things. The next bad thing, or the next con, I would say, is that their IT is a complete mess. It's a complete mess. I mean, if you're trying to get something off of this website, there's a lot of areas in the website that if you go in there, it'll just blow up. Maybe I was just doing it during a maintenance time, but I'm not particularly fond of this website. The way that they program this website is not that great. There's things that you would do, like if you had a web login and you try going onto their app with the same login, the app would just not recognize the login. And I reset that app password like 5-6 times, and finally I just threw my hands up and said, you know what, I'm not going to use this app. It's really frustrating. So that's another con. Okay. A third con is they actually kind of, and I hate to say it this way, but kind of the community that goes there is not that great. And this is not the lodge's fault, but it is a byproduct of the pricing, right? Because instead of taking people to Disney, taking your family to Disney, a lot of people come over here because it's a little bit more budget friendly. And it's kind of, it sucks to say it that way, but it is the truth. So I'll give you a couple examples during my last day. So I bought the birthday package during my last day, and when you buy the birthday package, they give you like this red sash that goes across the front door. And it's held together by elastics on each side, and you just hook it on corner to corner diagonally on the door. It's a great sash. I mean, honestly, I think that it's they do a very good job with their birthday package and everything like that. But one day I opened up my door only to find that the sash was ripped off. And you might ask, well, maybe it just snapped off the hinges, right? And that's why like it was on the ground. Well, they're actually sewn together pretty well. Like the elastics are sewn pretty well on the edge. You can't just have that sit on the door and just randomly it would snap. It would take some amount of excessive force for you to really kind of get that off. So one day I opened my door and I'm looking on the ground and luckily my kids were asleep. It would have been horrible if my kids saw that. But I opened a door and my sash is on the ground and I'm like, what the heck? Like, how's that down there? And I looked and literally like one part of the elastic got ripped off. And it was just on the ground, and it would have taken somebody to literally put their hand out and either swipe it, or like as they were walking, they put their hand out and they just happened to swipe it. I mean, it was really a nasty thing to come to. There's also instances where people were just behaving badly during the events. They would cut in line. There was no sense of line whatsoever. Like if you had one, you would have these kids that just run right in front of you, and they're just trying to get their things. They're kids. They don't know any better. It's not really their fault that they don't know any better, right? But there's a lot of cutting, and I don't like cutting because I don't teach my kids to cut. I teach them like, hey, be patient and wait your turn, right? Things like that. So that's a little bit disconcerting to have that happen, right? There's a lot of things where like people would just, you're in the middle of drawing on a table and you need to go grab some more supplies or something like that, and people would just randomly come up and just take your spot. It is a public space, so public rules apply. So technically, they're not doing anything wrong, but it's common courtesy. It's common courtesy, especially since that that's what they're doing. Like they'll just come in and just swoop it. And there were parents doing this too. It wasn't just kids. It was a lot of parents that were doing that. So maybe I'm being a little bit of I don't know, a pansy about that, but I tend to teach my kids to be honor driven people, right? So anyways, there's that. Another con with that that I would have to say is the entertainment. Now, the entertainment was good overall. I think they did a great job with the entertainment, but it is a finite amount of stuff that they hand out during these entertainment sessions. So, like for instance, bingo, there'll only be like 20 to 30 winners, and after 20 to 30 winners, they stop handing out prizes. They run out of prizes, and they just can't hand out anymore, pretty much. So, not everyone that participates in the event is going to win something. Okay. There's another example where it was like nighttime and they have like this little snow party and they hand out these little popsicles with pipe cleaners and bells attached to it so that you can hold it and jingle it. And I thought it was a great touch. I thought it was amazing that it was interactive in that sense, that you can hold this thing and jingle it, and then you do this little dance to kind of summon the snow and everything like that. But probably about half that room did not get the little jinglers because they just ran out, and after a certain point they were like, oh well, sorry, we ran out for the evening. I think for that they need to increase the budget of their entertainment sessions, so then everyone can get one, right? I mean, the whole point of coming is so then you can participate in full with that. So that's a little bit kind of not that great, right? So that's kind of some of the cons that I would say. The food takes forever. The IT is not that great. The entertainment is kind of, they need to increase their the amount of stuff that they give out. Things like that, right? Some of the pros that I would say is actually, let's begin with entertainment again. I think their entertainment overall is really, really good. With everything aside, just entertainment just as an entertainment thing, like these shows and stuff like that, I thought it was really well organized. I thought the yoga was great. I thought the end of the evening show that they have every night, they have like this little dance party. I think that that's great. So the story time was cool. The meet and greets were cool. I think that all that stuff overall is good. It's just they could fix some things, right? Okay. Another pro I would say with it is overall, the customer service there is actually not that bad. I think that their customer service is pretty good for what it is. They employ a lot of, it looks like there's a lot of high schoolers or college kids that are working there, as a summer job or whatever. So a lot of these kids don't really care. But for the most part, they were pretty good. They were pretty attentive. They meant well. They meant to help you, things like that. I know that that's not the case all the time because from what I'm seeing, there's a lot of people that don't like Grateful Wolf Lodge for whatever reason. But administratively, yeah, they're a little bit lacking in terms of their how they govern their staff, I would say. But for the most part, I think I probably had more good workers than bad workers. So I'm gonna give them a pass on that, just because through my experience, I think overall it was pretty good. Okay. Another pro I would say is that they have this thing. Now, I've talked about ways to mitigate costs. One of the ways to mitigate costs is to buy a paw pass, or whatever it is. It's a paw pass, and a wolf pass. I would recommend a wolf pass. And the wolf pass is basically an attraction pass. Like, it kind of prepays, certain things that you can do. So if you know you're going to do Magic Quest, go ahead and do one of those passes, because it covers the cost of the pass, and like a wand. I'll give you a wand in there, and there's other things that you can do, like bowling and things like that, right? So, like, here's an example, right? Like, I'm trying to go to like another segment of the area, and like their site is just frozen, right? It doesn't do anything. So that's why, like, one of the frustrations I have with Great Wolf Lodge is like their interface is really, really bad. Okay, like, I'm trying to go to the deal section so you can see like these packages and add-ons. All right, so it doesn't give you a kind of a readout, but for the most part, the Wolf's Pass is their highest tier one. Here's what it includes. It gives you a wand, topper, or magic belt. You don't get all three. You only get one. In the Anaheim place, I guess it gives you a Build-A-Bear, $5 to spend at the arcade, which is basically 2 to 3 games, one small candy cup, golf, bowling, and then ice cream, pretty much. And that's really good overall. I mean, if you think about it, like, the $5 is $5 at the arcade, right? The candy shop, I think they charge like $15 for that cup, if you were to buy MSRP. The golf game is probably around 7 per person, so that's 7 right there. The bowling is also roughly around like 7 to 10, give or take, right there. So that's 14, that's 19. It's roughly around 20, so you're about 35. The ice cream is probably like another 7. So you're about 42 right there. Your Build-A-Bear is probably going to be 40, so that's like 80. The wand is the most expensive item. I would highly suggest the wand. That's probably like 50, right there. So you're already at 130, and then the game of Magic Quest is like 20, pretty much. So it's almost about $150 value for half the cost, give or take. So I would just suggest that if you know you're going to do the attractions, do the Wolf Pass. They have other passes, like smaller tier passes, but they're meant for smaller kids that don't need a whole lot more. Like, the Pup Pass is meant for like a super small baby, because it gives you a Build-A-Bear and really nothing else, because they can't do anything else. So the Pup Pass, in my opinion, is the least worth it one out of the two. The Paw Pass is pretty good because it gives you a Magic Quest and everything, but do the Wolf Pass, pretty much. That's a pro that they have these, right? Yeah, so those are some of the pros and cons of Great Wolf Lodge. I probably missed some, but I can't really think of any off the top of my head at this point. Thanks for watching, and like, subscribe, turn on bell notifications. See you next time.